This is City Focus, the podcast from the League of Oregon Cities, where we explore the issues that matter to cities across Oregon.
The city of Gates was particularly hard hit during the 2020 Labor Day fires. In today's episode, Gates Mayor Ron Carmickle shares his personal experience as a homeowner who lost everything and as a public servant tasked with encouraging and rebuilding his community. Mayor Carmickle, welcome to City Focus.
Thank you. Thank you, Denise.
So you are the mayor of Gates, and Gates is a small city in Oregon, but you've had some major events and major things happen in the city of Gates that you've had to deal with over the past year and a couple months. But first, I want to start with tell our listeners a little bit about who you are as mayor. Were you born and bred in Gates? Did you move back? Let's hear a little bit about who Ron Carmickle is.
Ron Carmickle is a native Oregonian.
How many generations back do you go?
3, 4.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I was born in Eugene. I have lived all over Oregon. From my dad was he liked to migrate a lot.
Yeah.
So I've lived Reedsport, Florence, Eugene, Coburg, Portland. I spent most of my time from the time I was about 15 until just about 5 or 6 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Portland. So
wow.
I kind of migrated from there up into the Gates area. You know, Oregon is my home. No desire to go anyplace else. I've been to a few other states, you know, for short little jogs, just to get stuff. And I love Oregon. You know, for the past 30 or so years, I've been involved in small nonprofit organizations and stuff, working with them, working with people in recovery. And my background has kind of led me to this place. I went back to school when I was 50 years old without a high school diploma. Got my diploma, got my associate's degree, got a bachelor's degree, and then I got a master's in organizational management and leadership. That's all been in the last 15 years.
So you've been really busy.
Yes. So I have a new education with an old background. And so it's kind of, I guess my life events have kind of led me to where I'm at today. I got involved with Gates. I have, when I left Portland, I was really heavily involved down there. And I left and I go, I've been helping everybody out. It's time to help Ron out, you know, and focused on myself. And that's why, you know, when I came up to Gates, it was just by chance. I was looking for property outside of Portland, and I landed on the piece of property that I'm at now, and I was just mesmerized by it.
And it's a very different way of life than the very urban. It's very rural, small city.
It was an adjustment for sure.
Yeah.
It took me about 6 months to do the adjustment. Once I got up here, you know, start slowing down because it's a much more relaxed atmosphere. And I got used to it. It was, I couldn't go back to Portland if you paid me.
So you're in this new way of life, this new, slower, relaxed. You haven't been there that long. What prompted you to say, I'm going to throw my hat in and I'm going to see if I can, you know, take a shot at being mayor of my new hometown?
Well, not to anger a few people, but I you know, with my background stuff, I was watching how things were being done and stuff, and I go, man, this is not how you do stuff. You don't shut off people from speaking out. You don't stop people. You don't push things through. You don't do what you want to do. As a leader in a community, I look at it like you're not the CEO of an organization. You're a public servant, and you're working for the public. You're not working for you and what you want and stuff. And I've seen that happening a lot. My first stint at it was our old mayor. I was really I watched him in a meeting, just shut people down. I'll turn this down. Anyway, a lot of angry stuff. And it really kind of upset me. And in 2018, nobody had registered. A gentleman, Daniel Tucker, is in the meeting all upset, and he goes running out the door. I'll run for mayor, vote for me. And so I went chasing him out, and I got his phone number. I didn't qualify to run for mayor at that point. I went chasing him out. Another gal, Carolyn Boniface, came out, and we started exchanging numbers. Within a couple of days, we had a meeting. There was about 15, 20 people at that meeting. And we decided we was going to get the 3 positions for the council that was open. We would find people to fill those positions and run Daniel Tucker as mayor. We'd all support him and stuff. We did that 2 weeks before the election. Everybody got it voted in. So we put in 3 new members on the council and a mayor within 2 weeks before the election.
Wow.
On a
On a
write-in.
write-in. Oh my
On a
gosh.
write-in.
Which is always a challenge and usually not successful. So
yeah, it was amazing. So then during the meantime, I had put in my stuff and, become qualified to be on the council or whatever stuff. And there was a position that came up on the council. And so I got put onto the council. And that lasted for a while, 7 or 8 months, 9 months, whatever it was. And there's an issue going on with a sewer system coming up through the canyon. Well, I didn't really have an issue with the sewer system. I just had an issue with the paperwork to the cities and stuff like that. I didn't think it was very fair. An intergovernmental agreement, and I thought it put a lot of it didn't give the cities or the citizens enough say so in the situation. And so I was against the IGA and stuff. Another gentleman who's just totally completely against the sewer system to the most part. Another counselor, we got kind of tied together as like these people who were against the sewer system and stuff like that. After a second vote on turning down the IGA, the Daniel Tucker quit. He resigned, and then it turned into a battle about getting another counselor on there, and another counselor quit. Caroline Boniface decided she was going to resign as well. So then we were down to 2 or 3 counselors, and we had another position open anyway. Then Tucker decided, well, I'm withdrawing my resignation and I'm coming back so I can vote in this other counselor into office. And then he quit again, and then they was running a recall against myself and Jim Hensel, and Jim got recalled and I got recalled.
And this was in 2018, 2019?
This was all in 2019, yeah, I guess.
Okay.
2020.
I know, it all kind of blends together.
Coming into 2020,
what year is it? It's a bit of a blur.
2020. This would have all been within in 2020.
Okay, so
coming in just right before the election stuff. Well, when all this stuff happened, I had already applied to run for mayor of Gates. I had put in my stuff. This was even before the recall happened, and I kind of had this feeling in the back of my mind that they did the recall because I had applied. They got word that I had applied to run for the mayor and stuff. Make a long story short, I won the race.
So you became, so when exactly did you become mayor then?
In January this year.
January of 2021.
2021.
So you were not mayor then when all the wildfires were going through, but you were a city councilor at that time though.
Actually, the mayor at that time was the council president, John McCormick, who was the acting mayor. He never did take the position of mayor.
Interesting.
And he was acting mayor from, I think it was about August. Yeah, about August, I think it was. And he never did take the position as mayor and stuff. So your city government, I mean, it was kind of in turmoil and kind of upside down when Labor Day hit. And so you had someone who was acting mayor, and you had a lot of drama going on. Then those fires hit, and Gates was particularly impacted and devastated by these. So let's talk a little bit about what that weekend was like, how you dealt with it, how the city dealt with it, and then I want to talk a little bit more about what the future looks like for the city of Gates. But take us back to that weekend when all of this came crashing down on the city of Gates. Well, myself, I lost my home. I lost 2 homes, shops, cars, everything I owned.
Oh my gosh.
The only thing that was left of the back part of my property there was an old box truck and a car sitting back there and a trailer, and that's about all that was left.
Wow.
All my possessions, everything in my shop, all my tools, all my family history,
Ah,
everything,
devastating.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that was, that was on the evening of, and I guess on the day on September 8th is when my home actually burned. The Beachy Creek fire didn't even take out my home. My home came off. The fire came up off the river and came across town and took out my home. Came up
Wow.
across the culvert and down the culverts along the highway, and then jumped it, and then took out 4 homes right there, and then kind of went up the hill and then stopped. So, but the Beach Creek fire was going past my house when I left that night.
Mm-hmm.
I got woke up at 1:30 in the morning by my son calling me saying, "Dad, get out, the fire's here," and stuff like that.
Wow.
I've been watching the fire since August 8th, when it was only 8 acres. And I figured, they'd have it put out in the next day or two and stuff, and that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next thing I know, it's 100 acres, and then it's 500 acres, and it's 800 acres. But it's 20 miles away, and stuff. And so I'm like, why are they not putting out these fires? And, and this has been going on for 2-3 weeks or whatever it was and stuff. And so then the windstorm hit and stuff like that on September 7th and stuff. The fire went from whatever it was, 800 acres to 210,000 acres or whatever it was within 24 hours and stuff. And it was mind boggling. But, when I left that evening, I just thought it was the smoke at first when my son called me. I says, "Don't worry about it. It's just smoke." They're all freaked out about the smoke and everything. That fire's 20 miles away. It's nowhere as close to us and stuff. And but he convinced me to get up and meet him in Mahama at the gas station there, and then we would travel out of town until it was the next day or whenever everything was kind of settled down, right?
Right.
And I had went and I started putting stuff in front of my door and stuff, but then I started putting some stuff in my truck, and I go, I don't know. I got this old beat up motorhome that if I got to stay overnight somewhere, I don't really want to sleep in my truck, down there. I'll take the motorhome if it starts. What the heck, And I went over, and the motorhome started, to my surprise. Turns out it was kind of a good thing. It was a bad thing, but a good thing. But I needed a spare battery, so I went out in the backyard because this old car I had a good battery in it. So I went out to get the battery, and that's when everything became very real to me, because the fire was at about 300 feet behind my property on the peak of the hill. And I just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, how do you process that? I mean, seeing something like that, it would seem so otherworldly. Do you have you just can't believe it's happening?
Yeah, you pucker up your butt and you run.
So basically survival, fight or flight comes in, and you just skedaddle right out of there.
It's very real at that point. Yeah. You see that fire back there and you go, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I've got
time to get out
here now. Yeah. And so that's what I did. I just grabbed, my stuff and started throwing it in the motorhome and got out of there. I was out of there in about 10 minutes from that time.
It's amazing. And then you realize, we have 10 minutes. What's important? What do you save when you just
my guitar.
Your guitar?
My guitars.
Yeah.
Grab my guitars.
Yeah.
And I grabbed my computer that I was working on some videos with. And I left all the other really important stuff, all my documents, all my titles to my cars, my computer that I had all my websites on, all my schoolwork, all the important stuff I left behind. And I just grabbed the things that was important to me at that moment.
Yeah. kind
And
of the
that's
hard things. So, okay, so you got out of there safely. You got the things that you cared about. When were you able to get back in and then start putting on? At that point, you were a council member though, so you had sort of an official role.
No, I wasn't at
Oh,
this
you
point.
wasn't. You weren't at that
I had
time.
already been recalled. I got recalled
Okay.
just shortly before all this happened.
What was it like for you going back and then surveying the devastation?
Well, it was, we did a video of it. It's on my website, Oregon Hot Rod, September 9th. My son and I skated around the roadblocks and everything, came up the back way into Gates. Actually, we didn't even have to come in the back way. We managed to get past everything on September 9th, and I came into my property and
Yeah. No words. I don't know that there would be words.
no, there's not.
Yeah.
You just don't, you can see pictures, and this is the one thing that that is hard to get through to people. You can see pictures, you can have empathy, you can have all kinds of stuff. But when you walk into the devastation that fire does, and then it's your own home, when you look and things that are normal to you and stuff, and there's just like nothing left. Glass just melted and burned away, a lot of it. And your cars aren't just burnt. You see a burnt car, you've seen them in on the side of the road and all that other stuff. They're still whole.
Yeah.
They're just burnt. But not these cars. These cars are just crumbled down and just devastated. I had a huge, heavy duty steel bench in my shop. Heavy duty, real heavy duty, heavy. And that thing was just collapsed.
I saw some videos as well, and I want to link in show notes to the video, your video as well. But I remember somebody went up and was and it was sort of random. I think it might have been up in Detroit, though. It was like, well, your house is there, yours is gone, 2 more houses are gone. And there was sort of a random nature to some of it where the fire, almost like a tornado sometimes, will kind of snake its way through. And it's hard to make sense of the why of it. But now Gates lost the majority of structures.
Gates, we have, the way we've counted it, it's kind of not an accurate count, but we lost 91 meters. There's 91 homes on meters. But then there was several of those that were multiple homes on a single meter. Okay, like the trailer park and motel and stuff like that. And so when you add those in, probably 110 to 120 homes, probably more close to 110 residents that was actually lost. Gates is population is 495 is what they say. You figure that probably about half the population lost their homes and stuff.
Are you finding that a lot of people, once insurance claims were done, that they just kind of said, I'm out of here, I don't want to rebuild? I think there was some legislation that went through today, Representative Kate and I think Brock Smith, about allowing people to live on RVs while they're rebuilding. You've got a lot of challenges up there. The sewer system you were talking about, I would assume the fire kind of took that out. So there's a lot of rebuilding and infrastructure that just needs to be done. You kind of literally have scorched earth to start over.
Yeah, we're dealing with a lot of those problems. One of the biggest issues now, the sewer system that finally did go through, as far as the paperwork part of it.
Okay.
There's still funding that's got to be done.
Okay.
The system needs to be put in, and really that's the backbone to allowing Gates to rebuild. What we're dealing with now is a lot of septic problems and stuff like that. We're dealing, and I was just talking to Marion County earlier today. There's a big disconnect between the county commissioners and the planning, and the planning and the septic department and stuff. They don't get what we're trying to deal with up there.
Hmm.
And there's some people in the Marion County planning that are not working for people. They're working for, I don't know what the hell they're working for, to be quite honest. It seems like they're more putting in roadblocks than opening doors, to help people and stuff. And we have to be, cautious of certain things, of course, but there's things that can be done to help people out and stuff. And
Yeah.
I just don't get that.
And I've been seeing some like the one I just mentioned about the RVs, and ways to sort of to waive some fees, to waive some requirements, to waive some things, grandfather certain things in, to make it
Yeah.
easier on the rebuilding up there. So, speaking of rebuilding, you talked when we first started talking about that you had been watching one of those fires for about a month. So, I'm assuming you have some ideas on maybe ways we could have mitigated this disaster, prevented it. What can we do differently in the future? What a forest management, wildfire management is a hot topic, no pun intended, in Oregon. What are your thoughts on that?
I've been doing a lot of research. I've been doing a lot of reading. I've been doing a lot of looking at this stuff and seeing what happened with the fires, hearing testimonies of people, things that people went through and stuff like that. And just my experience in life. When I was a kid, it was Smokey the Bear. Only you can prevent forest fires.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have big forest fires like this. We just didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, why is it so much different now than then? My first thing was to look at what are the fires worse now? Do we have more fires, or because they're talking about global warming and all this other stuff. And so I done some investigating. And I just go, there is no difference in the amount of fires that we have from like 1990 to now. The numbers of fires has not changed.
Oh, okay.
What has changed is the amount of acreage that is burnt in these fires. We have had a 78% increase, 77, 78% increase in the amount of acreage that burns per fire from 30 years ago. When I looked at that, I go, there's a problem there to have that much of an increase. So what is it that has changed during those years that has created this big expansion and stuff? And I started looking at our past histories and stuff. From the late 1800s until 1970, our policy was early containment. That it's been that way since it was that way for years.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, from 1930 to 1970, the policy was a 10 a.m. policy. Once a fire started, it was to be put out by 10 a.m. the next morning.
Oh, wow.
That was the policy
Mm-hmm.
from 1930s to 1970s. We didn't have those kind of problems. That's the lifetime I grew up in. Then in 1970, the environmentalists came in. Well, it's good to let the fires burn. It cleanses them and lets them regrow and makes room for the trees, the older trees to grow. And okay, well, then we let natural fires burn themselves out and stuff. And so that became the policy. But along with that policy, they also had an open budget to fight fires with. So the financing part of that is, that they would able, if the fires did get too big, then they had unlimited funds to go in and stop them. In 2002, I believe it was, that changed again. Then they started budgeting the Forest Service, the fire management, with dollar amounts of how much they had to be able to fight fires and manage the forest and all that stuff. So then they started putting limits on everything because they figured that people they were not being very good with the money or stuff, whatever it was up in there. So put clinkers on them so that they wouldn't overspend and stuff like that. Then since then, it has been getting worse and worse and worse because we haven't had the money to not only fight the fires, but to maintain the forest the way they need to be done. And so now we're in this situation to where we have out of control fires,
Mm-hmm.
have not enough funding to deal with them, and we have no early containment. The policies have to be changed, and they're working on it. I know they are, but they're not using their brains very well. because really when it comes down to it, if you have a fire that's contained early on, they only cost a few $1,000,000 to stop it. But if you allow that fire to burn and it goes into like these fires here, I mean, the last figure I think I was looking at figures today, it's like $36 billion this fire cost. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to spend that kind of money, to let a fire burn when you could have stopped it for just a few million probably early on and saved a lot of people, a lot of stuff, insurance companies, everything. I mean, the whole gambit all the way across the board. It's
immense. So you talk about legislation. You're aware that legislation is being worked on. Do you have a seat at the table?
I have spoken some of the deals. I don't being a new mayor, I don't know all the little deals. I actually have some people that's kind of been helping pushing me towards certain ones and stuff like that. I sat in with Senator Golden on a couple of his deals, and I was speaking with Ron Wyden. I think Senator Golden he's kind of heard some of what I've had to say and stuff like that. And there is I'm seeing little traces of some of those things, but I don't really think that they understand what the real impact is. I was actually reading an article by somebody, I copied it down and stuff, and there was a really good article on the cost of what fires do and how it impacts. The impact isn't just the cost of the fire. It goes far beyond that. The cost of stopping the fire is minimal compared to the other damage that's done outside of that. And in this, the figures, that they're talking about is what insurance has had to pay out and the billions and all that other stuff. Yeah. But they haven't really looked at all of those figures. And we're going to be impacted for years from this fire and stuff. The people are going to be impacted. The environment's going to be impacted. Our waterways, our grounds, the impact is devastating, really. I mean, when it comes down to it. So.
And it came, in a time when we were, you talk about the human impact on people's lives, and we had already been in the COVID situation. People were dealing with that, and the stress of that. We're still dealing with that. So right. Just to kind of pivot a little bit over to, Gates, as you're starting to rebuild and trying to come out of this, but we're still dealing with. I don't know what Gates is in Marion County. I'm not sure what Marion County level is right now, but how's that impacted you as far as trying to, help your businesses, help people succeed, to be open, things like that, to keep Gates positive and hopeful?
Well, unfortunately, Gates don't have very many businesses anymore. Okay. It's been kind of it's put dampers on City Hall because City Hall can't just open its doors up and let people come in and all that stuff. And we can't have our council meetings live and stuff. And so people don't get a whole lot of information. This past Friday, I finally had an open town hall. There was an open town hall. We had it at the church. We followed our COVID stuff and everything. But it really, I felt that it really kind of give the community fresh breath. To hear other stories, I give out awards to some people who had really stepped up during the fire. Nice. And there was a gentleman and his wife who survived in the river that we've
yes.
Yeah, Scott Johnson was there. Another couple that nobody has heard about so much, on Bruce and Kathleen Bailey, they were cut out. They had to rescue them. They had to cut out trees and stuff to get down to them. They were standing in the middle of their horse pasture to avoid the fire.
Oh my gosh.
Kathleen, she got burnt pretty bad. She's still dealing with the burns and stuff like that. But they were very close to not making it and stuff. And so those people deserved it.
Yeah. To be recognized for what they, So, you said kind of coming back, having some sense of normalcy with the city, even just as something as a city council meeting coming back and giving people a chance to vent, like you said, is just about 400 people in town. I mean, you're very obviously small towns, there's a real sense of community there. Are you hopeful for the city of Gates moving forward that, you're resilient, you'll get through this, you'll come out stronger on the other side?
Yeah, there's a lot of people. I mean, I guess you kind of have to get a sense of the people that's there, because what was really amazing to me when I came to Gates in the Santiam Canyon period is how many lifelong residents there are there. You would think in a small town like that, everybody, it's like in the movies and everything. I'm out of here.
Yes.
When you're a kid, I'm out of here, and all that other stuff. And but that doesn't seem to be the case in Gates. It's like, and in the whole Santiam Canyon, you kind of see that.
Yeah.
Because the people, it's their home, and once you're here, the Santiam Canyon to me is like Oregon's best kept secret.
It's like, shh, don't tell anybody.
Don't tell anybody, yeah. Because it's so beautiful. It's so undisturbed. You come up through the Santiam Canyon. The only place that I've ever been to that has more parks and places is the coast, Oregon coast. Santiam Canyon is just park after park after park, campgrounds, beautiful places to go. Detroit Lake, Pack Saddle, Niagara Falls. Oh my gosh, beautiful. Opal Creek is just devastating to lose Opal Creek. Devastating. One of the most amazing places I ever been,
Yeah, I mean, it's apparent. I can tell that your love for this community comes through loud and clear, and it's personal for you. Yeah.
Yeah, it is very. And to see it wasted, because somebody couldn't stop a fire, wouldn't make a decision to bring in a tanker that could have stopped things or do whatever, let money get in the middle between people's lives and property and our trees. I mean, gee, many Christmas. One of the things I read in the early beginnings of the Forest Service, back in the early 1900s, 1910 or whatever it was when it was first started, and they were trying to decide on the national forest, and there was arguments going on and stuff like that. One of the statements somebody said was, why have a national forest if you're going to let it burn? Man, have they really lost connection with why we have a national forest, why it's there, what it's preserved for. It's not to let it burn, it's to give people the enjoyment of the land and the nature and all that other stuff.
Well, and we're coming in again. We're coming into my phone just beeped at me that I've got a weather alert. We've got warm, hot weather coming in, and there's some fire danger again, and we're coming into that season. Does that give you pause? Does it, you get a little?
Home hardening has been a big issue and stuff like that. I've been working with a gentleman who's really into that and has helped me out understanding what that really means. And I agree with it. I mean, we're not going to stop forest fires. That's just not going to happen. That there's always going to be forest fires. There's going to, and I don't call them wildfires. They're forest fires, and they're not wildfires. That's another one of those pet deals, and I don't like it. They're forest fires that need to be controlled, contained, and managed properly and stuff. If they want to do controlled burns, I mean, and it's proven that the fires do the forest good in a lot of ways. But if it's not done in such a way to where it's controlled, where it's done safely, and you're just letting them go until, we decide, we'll put them out now or whatever, that just doesn't make any sense to me. It just doesn't make any sense. Well, especially when they come so close to cities and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I think that was unprecedented for many of us. I know waking up that morning when I rolled over and looked out my window and it looked like night. I mean, that was for someone being down in Salem, that was a shocking gut punch to see that. It was terrifying. And so I can't even imagine, I can't put myself necessarily in your shoes to be surrounded by that, and the residents of Gates and what they had to go through personally. We need to wrap up. We're out of time. This has been an amazing conversation talking to you about this. And again, like I said, it's obviously personal. You love this community that comes through. Just in closing, some a message of hope moving forward as we go into spring and summer of 2021 for the residents of Gates, for our listeners. What would you like to share?
For myself, and I'm sure for a whole lot of other people, the thing that I had to look at after the fires was this is a new chapter in my life. Everything that I had in the past and done in the past is now gone. Now it's time to move forward. And if we sit back on our laurels and just cry about everything, nothing ever gets done. We have to step up. We have to pull our hands out of our pockets. We have to put on our gloves. We have to get busy and move forward. Don't let nothing stop us. Just keep going. And yes, it's going to be different. Yes, things are all messed up. Maybe there's not enough money. Maybe there's a lot. But there's one thing I've always said. Either I don't have enough money or I don't have enough time. If I got plenty of money, I got no time. If I got plenty of time, I got no money. So I get the best out of what I can. So we just, we just do the best we can and just keep moving forward, because eventually things is going to change. Yeah. I mean, Gates will come back. It'll be different. Mm-hmm. My home will be back. It's going to be a lot different. We're all going to be, we've all been impacted by something that we all have to share, and that's one thing I've kind of realized in all this is the amount of empathy we all have for each other is astounding. Mm-hmm. It really is, and we can share, and there's healing in all that.
Well, I've been talking today to Gates Mayor Ron Carmickle. Ron, Mayor Carmickle, it has been a privilege to talk to you today. Thank you for sharing your very personal story with us, and again, your love for the city of Gates. It's been, again, a privilege to talk to you. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, Denise.
Thanks for listening to this episode of City Focus. We will be talking with more mayors from across our state to hear their stories and how their communities are faring as we move forward into 2021 and beyond. If you're a mayor or city councilor from Oregon and would like to share your city's story on the podcast, send me an email at cityfocus@orcities.org.